Aloha, Aloha. You're now watching the AlohaAlova TV show on Facebook by going to facebook.com/Aloha, ALOHA, Alova, ALOVA. What will happen is if you can add, like, and subscribe, y'all, because remember, without you, there's no me. I want to give a special shout out to my Twitch homies. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? You're now watching the AlohaAlova TV show with your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KUCI in Irvine. Today is special. The reason why it's special is because this was actually a planning prior to the pandemic. However, things had to be a halt and pause, obviously because of the coronavirus issues and pandemic issues. But I saved today for this moment because there was a time when I was lost. When I say lost, I'm saying lost in soul, lost in spirituality, and lost in faith. And my wife and I, when we moved out in 2006, there was really no church that we can go to. And years later, years of circling around, I was able to get a referral to go to a church, what I like to call the home of the Misfits. And the reason why I'm kind of circulating around the stories because they're actually linked to this college radio station, and it is it's only my due purpose and my due blessings to have been given the opportunity for one of the pastors of the Newong youth to actually be part of today's podcast. So without further ado, I would like to introduce he's a brother, a friend, and a pastor of Newong Church. I'd like to welcome Pastor A. Park. What is going on, man?
What's everybody? Zazan.
How you doing? How you doing? That's right. If you can wave to the camera. How you doing?
What's everybody?
Before we start the show, I would like to give you a KUCI shirt.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Obviously with KUCI, we've been 53 years strong, and it's for community involvement, dedication to music.
Dude, I gotta put it on right now.
Oh, there you go. And that's right. So it's brothers and friends, just like Pastor A. Park, to help keep the radio show going. And without you, there is no Abe, Brother Abe, and there is no KUCI. So there's so much to talk about today, but let's talk about the college of ministry and the story. Okay, well, first of all, let me get to the point. Well, we're talking about the origins of Newong, the origins of Newong 10. Right now, obviously, we're in Santa Ana, but I know that in the beginning there was actually ties to the Irvine. Are you able to elaborate more on how the beginnings, who, what, when,
Sure.
and where it happened?
Yeah, man. It's an honor to be here. I went to UCI myself as a college student way back when, and it's cool to be on KUCI. Cool to be on your show tonight.
That's right.
Newong is a community that's moved around all over Orange County. We started actually in Santa Ana, but it moved all over the place, and it was in Tustin when I was a freshman at UCI. But not too long after that, it landed off of Teller, right off Jamboree, pretty close to UCI, just a stone throws away. And I was probably a sophomore when it moved to Irvine, and I was a student in the dorms. I lived in Middle Earth.
I know. Okay, that's right at Peddleston.
Yeah. And I lived in Woodhall, and I met a lot of good friends there, and it was, living in the dorms was fun. But one of the sophomores, he was the vice president of Middle Earth, his good friend Mike Jeff. He told me that he knew of a church called Newong, and a whole bunch of us went to check it out together. I looked up to him, man. He showed me where to get some carne asada burritos. He showed me, what classes to avoid, and he told me about this community. I started checking it out. But Newong's been around like 28 years. He's been around for a little bit. As we talked about earlier, it moved to the location 1010, which is originally First Baptist Church of Santa Ana. Older church, older congregation, beautiful building. But there was only 20 of them left, all in their 70s. Their dream, though, was to have little kids run around the hallways and laughter and singing. but it wasn't going to happen. So they decided to kind of potentially merge with the new church. It wasn't a true merger in the end. We ended up buying the building off of them, but now there's kids running around in the hallways. So it moved from Irvine to Santa Ana about 7 years ago. Yeah, so that's where we've been. But New Song started with prayers all around Ring Road back in the day. Our pastor Dave Gibbons felt calling to Irvine, felt calling to Orange County, and he had moved from the East Coast, and he didn't have a lot of connections here, but he felt like there's something important happening with the young people, and he felt like UCI, with its student base, but also international students as well, coming from all over the globe, all over the country, all over California. And I guess I was lucky because after he started the church 4 or 5 years later, I was a freshman here. And my story is interesting. I moved around a lot. I'm Korean, but I grew up in Singapore for a good chunk of my life, moved around quite a bit. Never felt like I belonged anywhere. I felt like an oddball. But New Song was maybe this community of misfits, like you mentioned earlier, where I felt like maybe I could be myself, my true self, and not be judged or put out. Yeah.
Obviously, with today's today's generation, with regards to segregation, a lot of I don't want to say the legal word, but I believe like prejudice in the sense of like slander, bullying, especially within UCI, it was kind of obvious due to the fact that they would say, I'll say it the old school way, University of Chinese Immigrants, UCI.
Yeah.
And it was a stereotype, because obviously you came here for the engineering, you came here for the biochem, you came here for the doctors, etc., etc., etc. But every heart, every soul has spirit. Mm-hmm. Every mind has faith. Mm-hmm. And like I was saying before, that there's always, besides being dedicated to school, there always have to have the humbleness to be found within ourselves.
Sure.
Just how I mentioned it in the prior podcast. I mean, like in the prior minutes, like I was trying to find myself, and that's how everything circled back to New Song. I started going to the New Song off of Teller Street, right across the street from here, and my first steps, I already felt at home. The aura, the energy, the interaction, I felt it, and to this day, I didn't want to leave. I'd rather move with you guys to Santa Ana, and then try rather than incorporate, and through the perseverance and through the dedication of Pastor A. Park, Pastor Dave Gibbons, Pastor Dave Brubaker, and there's a lot of other pastors like that. Oh, and I want to give a special shout out to Pastor Emily. We wish you a good stay right now. I know that congratulations on having the baby. So hopefully you're watching this on Facebook Live to where I'm giving you a shout out. So hopefully just get some rest.
What's up, Emily?
Yeah, that's right. We're all here, and we're just talking about the history of New Song and how it all started. Do you know like the specific people, like the origins of the people?
I think.
Or I guess you wouldn't want to say the founding fathers, or
sure.
Or,
there's a really unique origin story to New Song, almost like a superhero movie. There's an origin story.
All right.
And the origin story actually comes from a lot of pain, And our pastor Dave, when he was younger, he shared about how he grew up in such a, it seemed like such a loving family. All of his friends wanted to hang out at his house, ideal, picturesque. And he shared this multiple times, but there was an affair. The dad had an affair, and it was very painful. And the mom, his mom, an immigrant, a person of color, living in Arizona back in the 70s, was going through not an American dream, but an American nightmare.
Yeah.
She was going through so much pain. And in the midst of that, fell into alcoholism. In the midst of that, fell through a lot of depression and just a lot of brokenness. And the tragedy in all this is, ironically, Dave's mom was killed in a drunk driver hit her. And so at 15 or 16, as it were, his life fell apart. And I think whether he knew it or not back then, as he became a pastor later on as an adult and worked through whatever he had to work through, and still working through stuff, I'm sure, he started a church where he imagined, could someone like his mom, who experienced maybe a devastation, a relational devastation, an American dream becoming a nightmare, and a person of color, someone who was a minority,
Yeah.
could they come to a community or space and be loved on, be cared for, whether it be there's a language barrier, whether it be there's a financial barrier, whether it be whatever it may be, could someone like her be cared for? And maybe even someone like his dad, who made the biggest mistake of his life, if he wanted to make amends, if he wanted to make something right, would there be a community that he could come and not be judged, not be like shunned or whatever,
Yeah, yeah,
but come
exactly.
and be find a place of healing? And you know, we're all people with issues. We're all broken people, and I think it's important to have a space like so. New Song started, the genesis of it came from a lot of brokenness and pain. And I think, as you mentioned, when you walked in the doors or walked into the sanctuary, walked meeting people, that sense of belonging or that sense of welcome, it's not just a smile and just people being cheerful. I think there's a deep sense of, hey, like, I see you. You know, you've been
Yeah.
through it. I've been through it. I understand. I want to empathize. You know?
Yeah. And that's what makes me and my family continue to be part of New Song, just like how we were talking about brokenness. I can tell you from personal experience. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure you can relate. Like, depression is contagious. And to experience it from all sides, from all angles, it's hard to find coping by yourself, and with New Song, I was able through the years. A little side story is that me and my wife, we weren't able to have kids, children, and we kept on praying, and it was not until we went to New Song that all of a sudden kids are popping out everywhere.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of it. From all the brokenness and from all the struggles and from all the strife, it's New Song is part of our engine, our ignition to life. And through Pastor Dave Gibbons' journey, we all follow together from all our sides. And I'm very grateful to, and it's I'm very blessed. You as representative, as a pastor at New Song, to come full circle to back where it came by.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I still remember as a freshman checking out New Song for the first time, hearing Dave share this story about his mom and his dad and the brokenness there. Yeah, there was not a dry eye in the room. Everybody was crying. It was an
Yeah,
emotional
yeah,
story. I grew up in the church, and usually stories that are shared, brokenness are shared. There's always this kind of like wrapped in a bow at the very end. Like I
yeah,
went through this crazy valley, but here I am, like very successful, almost like a transformation story. And those were the stories I was used to. They're not bad, but that's how it's presented. That's how I've always heard it. But I've never heard a leader or a pastor share about their own junk, but also something that maybe on this side of heaven it'll never get resolved. The pain and the
yeah,
loneliness and the
yeah,
disconnection. And so that I was scratching my head afterwards. Like I was moved by it, but I was like, oh man, I didn't know we could talk about this stuff. I didn't know we could even talk about brokenness that's unresolved.
yeah.
And so that's something that blew my mind. Um, I'll share one more story, man. Like when I was a freshman and I was at New Song, where there are different people that volunteer to help with the kids. So there was this gal. She was a junior. She was helping to carry whole babies while the parents go into service to listen to the message.
Oh,
And so I'm
okay.
like, oh man, you woke up so early to help out. It's so cool. And I found out that she said, I'm actually not Christian. And I was like, oh man, why are you here so early? Your call shouldn't, we should be sleeping in. And she said, I really want to know about this Jesus.
Oh,
I have so many
wow,
questions. I can't say
wow.
I believe everything, but I'm here to help out. And that blew my mind. When I was young, I think the model of the church I was exposed to was that you had to believe before you belonged.
Yeah,
But this gal, I think she belonged whether you believe or not. And I really appreciated that. I really appreciated her curiosity. I appreciated her honesty. I appreciated her willingness to serve and help others. That blew my mind. I was 18 years old, and whatever framework I had of what church could look like or should look like, Newsong was a big part of like opening my eyes to a different reality.
Yeah. Oh wow, wow. Are you able to like are there any stories you want to share with the community with the reference to Ring Road
Sure,
stories?
yeah.
All right.
So one of the things that obviously Ring Road is iconic.
Mm-hmm.
You get lost if you're new because
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
it's almost like a trap. You go in a circle. But I remember when Dave was trying to start this church, he really believed in young people, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that he did is he went on walks on Ring Road and just pray for the campus, pray for the students, prayed a blessing over the leaders that were coming from all over the world. And I think it was part of that prayer, seeds that were planted, if you will, to really want to serve the community. And in the early days, I wasn't here for that, but in the early days, there were a lot of college students that started coming out to the church. I heard that it met in one of the apartments not too far away. And as people would come, I would hear this story. There's a lady, her name is Susan, and she's a mom of 2 high schoolers now. But she said she was a freshman when she showed up, and I think her first time was like that third gathering they had as a new song, and she was immediately asked to like do the overhead projector. This is way back
Oh
before
wow.
PowerPoint, way back before any kind of digital tech stuff, and she was helping out back then. And these were the college students that became part of the community, became part of the worship team, became part of serving the kids, like I said, holding babies, helping out the community. And 28 years on, some of these students, have moved on, but some of these students are still parents of kids that are about to go to college themselves. So
That's right.
I mean, talk about Ring Road being a big circle. This full circle moment, even for me. I mean, I started going to Yusong when I was like a freshman. This is 1999, guys. Way back when,
Yeah.
one millennium ago.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful to be part of this community, even though we're in Santa Ana. We're there to serve the community. One cool thing we've been doing during the pandemic is we've partnered with a food bank. We're giving out food every other Friday to the community. That's something really beautiful. In the Book of James, it talks about true religion, and what is true religion? It's serving the widows and the orphans,
Yeah.
and not being corrupted by the world. And there's something about that. As churches, we can get caught up in doing, flashy stuff or religiosity. But I think at the end of the day, are we serving the poor? Are we loving on those that are on the fringe? And if we're not doing that, then I don't know if we're really living out what Christ has called us to be. So, moving from Irvine to Santa Ana, it was a complicated time. We had a lot of college students that it was a little further for them, and that transition was hard for a lot of families too. That was a big move.
Yeah. I never second guessed it, but obviously there was a big, the Irvine life is the Irvine culture is different from Santa Ana culture.
Sure.
Originally, I am from Santa Ana, and I kind of, I speak Spanish. I kind of grew up with a Hispanic family, so I'm well adapted. However, obviously my wife is Hawaiian, so moving to Santa Ana, there was kind of like a culture shock
Sure.
or city shock.
Sure.
Obviously, that's not going to stop us from going to, we were ready.
Yeah.
And to this day, it's totally understandable. So it was okay for me and my family to blend in, and that's how we feel. And I mean, I wanted to. When was there a time when New Song, as a small group, was able to, I guess, reach the bigger scene? When I say the bigger scene, like all of a sudden, from starting in a classroom seminar, a classroom type, where a group of like 12 to 15 people, when did it jump to like big concert halls? Do you get what I'm saying? And then now, all of a sudden, now you're doing your own church.
Yeah.
When did the population, I mean, like, are you able to say, like, when did the population grow exponentially for you to notice it when you were one of the people that helped start it back in the 90s to where now it's like an everyday Sunday event?
Sure. New Song right now, I think right before the pandemic, so 2019, 2020, the congregation was probably around 1,000 adults, maybe 200 kids, 200 youth. So we were 1,200, I would say. I think Newsong in its heyday, so like when it was big, there was a season of time when it was anywhere between 2,500 to 3,000 people, and we were meeting in this giant warehouse off of Teller.
Oh,
And
okay.
it fit a lot of cars, fit a lot of people. We had multiple services, and huge. And I think Krispy Kreme, everyone was addicted to it. Like, it was something that
Okay.
we offered, and people came, and all of this I would say was right around before 2008. So when the boom, the real estate boom was happening, a lot of people had a lot of money. I think people were being adventurous, and all this stuff. A lot of bad decisions were made, and so I was part of a team when I just got out of college doing an internship with Newsong. We were part of a team actually in 2005 that went to Newsong Bangkok. And it's kind of weird, but that's part of our history. Newsong had gone pretty big, but Dave, we had just had a huge service on the Anaheim Convention Center. Like 4,500 people showed up. Friends, grandmas, everyone came. It's a big deal. And it was an Easter Sunday service. And I think it was out of a willingness to serve and do something excellent. And
Hold on for a minute.
yeah, of course.
Right, hold on, just give me a quick minute.
Yeah.
Aloha, Alova. You're now listening to the AlohaAlova radio show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KUCI in Irvine. So, you started off listening to the first half hour of hour number 1, starting off with Pet Ranking featuring Diamond Platinums with Love You Die, Pop Kaan, Body So Good, Techno with Choco, Marley Waters featuring More Love Flexia, Busy Signal with Girl You're a Champion, Conqueror with Excita, Stefan Don featuring Ebenezer with Uber, DeMarco with The Rider, and lastly you heard was with Kelly One Side featuring Caution the Icon with New Clarks. Just to give you a little heads up for all those who are listening in their car, on the road, on the dial, we have a special guest in the station as we speak. A friend, a brother, and actually he's telling stories on how Newong 1010 Church is actually relevant and part of KUCI's history. For those that are interested, you can go ahead and call the station 949-824-5824. Once again, 949 UCI KUCI. It was stories about Ring Road, stories about the originators of faith, and many much more, yo. So if that, you're welcome to call 949 KUCI UCI. Or you can actually follow us as we're live streaming this podcast, facebook.com/aloha, ALOHA, Alova, ALOVA. And check it out. If there's any questions, yo, make sure you call in, all right? You'll be on the air. And thank you again, y'all. You're now listening to the AlohaAlova radio show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KUCI in Irvine. Aloha, Alova. The second half of hour number 1. All right. I'm sorry about that, my brother. All right, so you were talking about going from Easter Sunday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So on Easter Sunday, it was huge. Lots of people came. I think at the time, how Dave, our pastor, was trained was to make things big and make things successful, and that was kind of his training. And yeah, a lot of people came. And there's a famous story how right before he went up to speak, he heard God kind of like, not necessarily audibly, but kind of an impression on his heart. He felt like, oh man, is this it? And God basically asked him like, but like, is it the building that's important? Or is it, what happens outside the building? Is it what's happened inside that's important, or isn't it the outside stuff? Serving the people, making a difference. And so that's something that he wrestled with, like kind of almost like the ethos. Like, is it about building a giant church, if you will, almost like a Tower of Babel, like huge, just building it up and up and up, and that's success, right? And that's all he's seen, that's all he experienced. And around this time, he became, I would say, a little disillusioned. He wondered if that was the way to go. And a very peculiar thing happened as he was asking this question. There was a huge natural disaster that happened in Sri Lanka, in Indonesia. Wow. There was a huge tsunami that swept into Thailand as well. And this was in 2004. And as a response, we send a bunch of people from Newong to go help build orphanages and schools.
Oh, wow.
On these like tiny islands off the coast of Phuket. Now, Phuket is a tourist destination in Thailand.
It's Thailand, right?
Yeah, and they got a lot of love. They got CNN showing up, and rightly so. But there's these tiny Muslim fishing villages that are not tourist destinations. and they got no love, and
Yeah.
they were hurting. And somehow we have worked with a local, it's called SDRF. They do fish research, Sustainable Development Research Foundation. They wanted to go help this Muslim villages that was down south. And so we said, hey, how can we help? And we sent some people there to help build little homes and orphanages, and it was a Muslim village, and they were really like, hey, are you here to like convert us? Like, why are you here? And understandably so, because we can't pay you. Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
is
yeah.
what are the motives?
Obviously,
You know?
like they feel so alienated.
Yeah,
You know what I
and
mean? So yeah.
and so some of our church people went, regular people, fathers and mothers, doctors, and like stay-at-home moms, different people. They were helping out, and the trust wasn't there. But
Yeah.
after a few days of working hard, building homes, sweating that humidity, eating the food together, the crazy story is as they left on little jeeps, little pickup trucks to go back to the ferry. These grown Thai men that were very stoic and kind of guarded at first felt like, oh man, these are my brothers. And they're going home now. And I heard this crazy story of them waving at them and running along as the pickup truck was leaving with tears. And in the Thai culture, I mean, there's a place to cry, but it's not a show of emotions like that,
Yeah, yeah. I kind of feel where you're. I see that a lot in I guess Asian movies. You know how it's the nonverbal communication is what's most impacting.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like you say hi over here, it's like, hey, how you doing, right?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
then when someone, in a different country, it's another way around, and to run with happiness, and with tears, obviously, as tears of joy.
Yeah.
And so yeah, man.
There was a connection, and it wasn't just that one trip. We kept on sending people to help out, and long before that, within a year, I think Dave decided to go plant a church out there. And not in that fishing area, but in the city in Bangkok, because there are people who went there. This older lady, famously, Mrs. Lee, was helping teach English over there, helping with that. But she's like, you know what? I think Bangkok, the city itself, large city, 20 million people, man, they need a church for young people. And so she asked Dave if he would consider. And Dave, as he was asking these questions of disillusionment and like what is real, what does it mean to really serve God, and is it the building of the towers or something else, And
is it like building a castle versus spreading the passing the baton?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And so he decided to come here. He took his whole family and moved here for a year. Now that sent chaos throughout our church because the lead pastor of our church is going to go to Thailand. He was going to come back once a month, but I would be freaked out too, But I was lucky to be part of the young team, to go out there together, and I got to work with a lot of the youth out there.
Wow.
But being out there was a huge mind shift for us. Learning from our Thai brothers and sisters. We weren't there to teach them anything. We learned so much from our Thai friends. One of the Thai pastor friends that I met, he said was, 99% of them are Buddhist, and less than 1% are Christian. And so, as Thai believers,
that must be if we can take a pause for a minute, it's like I can imagine there's Buddhists, there's what was New Song as a Christian faith? Was there any kind of spiritual battles or anything? I mean, can you? I know we're, I don't know if that's too personal, but I mean, that must, I would like to know about it.
It was a spiritual place. I would say that I had a hard time, even maybe because I was, by myself. It was hard to fall asleep. So I remember I had to listen to like worship music on my iPod at the time to fall asleep. It's a very spiritual place. It's a beautiful place. There's amazing people, but there's a lot of spiritual beliefs that exist out there. So I was having really vivid dreams. So yeah, I would say as wonderful as Thailand is, it is also a very spiritual place, good and bad. You can experience a lot of different things. And I remember that was kind of the season of life that I was in. I was by myself. Every single one of my teammates that were there were all married. I was the only single guy, and my job was editing videos. So I would stay up late night editing videos, feeling very isolated and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a very spiritual place. But we learned so much because one of our Thai pastor friends, his name is Mehta, and he told me, it's tough being a Thai Christian because we're a minority. But a lot of times we were trained by these European or American missionaries to be very westernized in our thinking. And so he felt like to be Thai, it means to be Buddhist, or to be Thai means to be, and culturally that exists, not just religiously. And so he's saying by becoming a Christian, for him, he felt like people thought he sold out his own culture or became very whitewashed or westernized, however you want to call it. But he was telling me this, and I learned this from him. He said, so what does it mean for me to be, and he used the word natural. What does it mean for me to be just a natural human being? Right? Not a westernized Thai or whatever, but just to be truly me. And I think that's something we struggle here as Christians
day
in
to
America.
day, trying to find ourselves.
Yeah, and especially as Christians in America, I also think a lot of people speak with a lot of religious jargon. They're not truly being honest about who they are, what they're with. Even the word blessing, in the church can sometimes be like a way to like cover up different things. And I think it's so important to be honest about where we are, and especially in this day and age, where there's stress, mental health, there are all these struggles that we have. Like I just came back from a dentist the other day. My dentist told me that I'm clenching too hard, so I had to get a guard because they're shooting pain. And he's like, it's very normal. A lot of people in the pandemic, they're grinding their teeth. Some people even breaking their tooth because they're grinding so hard. And I'm like, oh man, we're a population that's stressed. We have unrest, emotional, spiritual. There's things going on. It's difficult. And so for that Thai pastor to teach us, hey, it means to be natural, to be yourself. So instead of using a big, spiritual language, but just to be honest with who we are and what we're going through. It's not easy, but it's the first step towards honesty and authenticity. So the word natural, another way I'm looking at it is to be authentic, to be true.
Wow, and to this day, it's just that to hear that small or to hear that situation can be like hours full of dialogue with in terms of like spiritual conflict with other people, because obviously over there they have Buddhist temples.
Yeah.
And it's not just like going down the street and boom, there's Newong Ten over there in Thailand. Now, I'm pretty sure you're surrounded by temples to where did you ever at one time ever felt like you were cornered in?
Well, I'll share this story as a great kind of like reference point. My first week, because I got there a few weeks after Dave had gone there, and they've been meeting, their services were in their apartment. Famously, there was an apartment on the 24th floor. The unit number was N. They call it 24N, and then we jokingly called N like Narnia. It felt like a doorway into another world. People were in there singing. It could be anywhere from 30 to 40, 50 people on a Sunday morning. There's this one lady that stood up, shared at the very end. We were small enough for people to share, hey, what are you going through? What are you learning? This is encouragement. This one Thai lady stood up. She had moved around, spoke multiple languages, was fluent in different languages, and was well-to-do, like professionally as well. But she was estranged from her parents. Her parents were Buddhists, and she had become a Christian 10 years ago. But her Christian pastor at the time had advised her, hey, don't go to Buddhist ceremonies because of spiritual implications. I don't know if it was well-meaning or it was misrepresented, but that was kind of what she had. And Dave, our pastor, was sitting with her and said, hey, if you really love your family, and if you're going to a funeral, whether it's Buddhist or whatever, you're there not to pray to some other whatever, but you're here to
support the family,
love on them. And so there was, not all Thai Christians, but there was this kind of, I think, inaccurate kind of fear of, I don't want to be, walking into spiritual realities. Now, are they spiritual realities? I think so. But the intent of going there wasn't to do something bad. It was there to love on the family, to show respect, to, be that. And so she said she started going, she went to a family function, a funeral, and at first they were a little antagonistic. Her family was like, why are you here? I thought you were a Christian, And she said, oh, I'm sorry I haven't been coming. I want to support you guys.
Can I take a pause there? Because one thing that brought to my mind that's so relevant right now is like going back to how we were talking about the introduction about like the church beginnings, and how us Asian and Pacific Island people were always categorized as minorities. I just mentioned university Chinese immigrants. Now, what I'm starting to realize too is that within cultures, there's also a spiritual segregation to where it shouldn't be prejudiced. And I mean, yeah, so it's not even about color or blood. This can be like some metaphysical stuff that only the truth behold. That prejudice doesn't come in just outside form. It's also within soul.
Yeah.
And it hurts.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for just to take that, but I just had to say that off the top of my head because, man, it's like we can never escape like ignorance. We can never escape like prejudice. We can, and that's why I love Newsong is because they accept me for my brokenness from my past, and they support my future struggles. And I love the story. So I'm sorry. I just had to say that. Yeah, so go ahead. So we're at this family party, and then all of a sudden,
and so
relative A is okay.
Yeah, saying,
I'm sorry.
Hey, why are you here? I thought you were Christian. And she said, no, you know what? I should have been there for you guys. I'm here to show love. I'm here to show respect. And so they were skeptical at first, but her relationship over time was able to slowly build up.
Wow.
And when she shared that in tears on a Sunday after church, I felt like, okay, you know what? She gets to be herself. She gets to be natural. She gets to go to a family function, whether it's religious or not, and be there for your loved ones. I mean, whatever we're going through, you may have a family member that's not your faith or a different kind of different kind of philosophy, even different kind of mentality, and yet if they're family or if they're a friend, they're going through a tough time, what does it mean for us to be there, be present, with somebody else? I think that's the most humane thing that we can do for another human being is to see them, to acknowledge that they're hurting, and to be present. And sometimes being present is not saying anything. Being present is just sitting there with them. Right?
I wondered, and I know I'm kind of like looking and listening from a third or fourth party point of view, but like after a while, did those two get along?
Yeah, and so
it must have been hard though.
Yeah. So the story that I heard was she didn't really have a relationship with the family, but over time it was getting better and better. Now, where is it now? I don't know. But when I heard the story, there was so much emotion behind her sharing because she felt like being a Christian, and she was, I think, wrongfully trained or taught, but she thought she had to separate herself completely. But there was an opportunity to show respect and show love that really opened up a pathway to have a conversation. And so I think religion can be weaponized, unfortunately.
Yeah,
right?
it's good. I'm sorry to jump in again, but I'll never forget this. I think in 2000 and back in maybe 2010 or 2011. I'm not gonna say nothing bad, but a coworker of Muslim or religion called us Christians a cult. And I kind of felt offended, but I really didn't snap because number one, I was at work, so I learned I was able to train myself to calm down before any issues politically would get into rise. But I'll never forget that, and to this day, it's like to be viewed from the outside as a cult, I kind of feel is ignorance. But if that's the way how other people are judged, I just wonder for a fact is that how we're talking about the situation on how one religion is supposed to segregate with another religion, in terms of like Christianity faith, is that what's supposed to happen? Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, well, I grew up in Singapore, and it was a pretty diverse place, though 70% I think population-wise is of Chinese descent. There's like 16% Malay, I think like 8% Southern Indian Tamil, and like Eurasians and others, but a small minority. But growing up in a multicultural society when I was a kid, I mean, on the Singaporean dollar, there's 4 languages.
Oh.
There's Malay, which is the official language because Singapore used to belong to Malaysia. And then there's Tamil, a South Indian dialect. And then there's English, which is the more common, because it used to be a British colony. And it's written Chinese because of a large Chinese population. And I remember growing up, I had to learn. They call it mother tongue. They don't call it second language. It's like
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
Chinese, you learn Chinese, and if you're Malay, you learn Malay, and you can learn other stuff. You can learn German or whatever. But that was we were segregated in terms of where we would go learn the language, different classes. But meeting my friends of different ethnicity, some of them were Hindu, some of them were Malay. It was I think growing up in that experience was actually really rich for me. And I was naive. I remember asking one of my best friend who was Muslim. I said, "Hey, you want to come to church with me?" He goes, "I can't." And we were like 11. I was like, "I can't." I was like, "Why not? Just wake up early, man. I'll pick you up. We'll go." And he goes, "My parents will disown me if I go to your church."
Oh,
And when I was 11,
wow, dude, yeah.
"Don't come. I don't want to get kicked out of your home." But as drastic as that sounds, I was grateful for those interactions. Right? They knew I was a Christian. They came over to my house. We ate different foods because there's halal. Like I remember even in Singapore in early 90s, McDonald's became halal, and my Muslim friends were like so excited. They're like, "We can finally eat here!"
Yeah, okay.
Because they were religious and they wanted to follow their rules. It's like kosher, right? They wanted to follow the rules. So I respect that. But it was so important for me growing up, seeing how, whether it be dietary laws or religious laws, how my friends would go pray 5 times a day. That was something on a Friday that they would do. That really opened my eyes to be like, wow, these are good people too. They're really religious. They love their community. That's something that really helped me to understand, dude, there's so much we can learn from one another. One thing I loved about UCI was there's a interfaith building on the other side of campus here. And different people of faith can come together and have an opportunity to learn from one another. I respect that. I think there's tremendous wisdom that we can learn from one another.
Yeah, and I agree with you. One thing is, one thing that I, like in my spiritual life that I can continue on the path is to learn and love one's differences. Especially on how relevant that is to KUCI. Is like every DJ here and every talk host has their own style of music. Off the board, I'm an international reggae DJ and artist. So, but you got rock, you got opera, you got goth. When it comes to the station, like AKA like the music church, we all come together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, and that's what makes KUCI number one still active. Number two, integrated, where we learn from each other and accept all of our differences. And number three, like that's what keeps us in business.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're only one college out of many state colleges out there, and unfortunately, because of the segregation and because of the conflicts, too many politic issues end up happening. Is they close down.
Yeah.
And it's the beauty of UCI itself, of learning differences that make us stronger together.
Yeah, I mean, right before I came here, I was having dinner with a friend, and there was a gentleman sitting just across from us. And he came by himself, and he asked us what we did. And the guy that I was eating with, he works at Newong also, but he has a part-time job. He has another job somewhere else. So we were just connecting with him every once in a while. He asked me what I did. I said, "Oh, I'm pastor at a church." And he goes, "Oh, how come you started doing that? I'm just so curious, And I said, "Well, my dad's a pastor, and that's, I guess, piqued my interest as a child. But one of the things my dad would do when he was a missionary in Singapore, where I grew up, he worked with a lot of prisons and with people who were rehabbing from drug abuse. And so there were a lot of young, talented people that got caught up in drugs, and some of them were in gangs, some of them were certain kind of lifestyles. But many of them, because they had a relationship with my dad, when they got out of prison, they wouldn't go home because a lot of shame, or they wouldn't want to go with their friends because they knew they would get high again. So they would sleep in front of our house. My mom would be freaked out because there would be guys tatted from head to toe, like just sleeping in front of our house. But my dad knew who they were. Like, "Oh, come on in." He would feed them, and I was a kid, and I grew up with these guys. But I think that reminded me that as human beings, we need a second chance.
Yeah.
We need an opportunity for redemption, an opportunity for people to believe in us. Especially when we're in the pits. Like
I totally agree with you. The spirit is the spirit's all about love, and whether you're tatted from head to toe, a bald head looking like a monster, everyone like You know, we all have hearts
Yeah.
of all different sizes,
Yeah.
and to be accepted with love is the greatest strength of all.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and you know, it's I praise your dad for that. You know, because you know that must have been like an adventure within. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, he's my dad's such a creative guy. Like his English was so bad, his English was broken, and so he would try to speak English to the inmates, and there's these Swedish missionaries and other places that he just thought they were just so much better in English, and many people want to meet with them. But they all had one or two guys, and my dad wanted to do something special, so he asked the church he was a part of and said, "Hey, there are these great young men that are in prison that need to be loved on, that need to experience God's love." And he said, "I would like to take an offering so that we can invest into the prison." And so he asked the warden, like, "Hey, how can I have a room to meet with the inmates?" And they're like, "We don't have any room, but we have a storage room that if you clean it, you can use it." And it was a large storage room, but it was nasty, musky, gross. And he asked the church, "Hey, there's these young men that we can really, who have a lot of hurts and pains, and we need to invest into them." So they took an offering, and it was crazy. They like carpeted it. They put AC in there.
There you go.
And my dad told me like, after they did it, like 80 people showed up, and he said some of them don't really care about the gospel. They don't really care about learning about God, but the AC was cool, so they'll just come and listen. And then
no. The cool thing about that is that as long as they had the mind to accept that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, besides the AC part, is just being able to learn a difference.
Yeah.
Being able to learn and appreciate information that may be forbidden.
Yeah.
You know.
So I was back in Singapore back in 2017. My brother got married in Korea. He had a second reception in Singapore. About almost everyone that came was just my dad's friends, but a third of them were those guys that were used to be in prison. Now they're all older now. Many of them do a lot of rehab work. They're trying to help other guys get out of that cycle of drug abuse.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful seeing them, meeting their families, meeting their spouses, meeting their kids.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Aloha, Alova. You're now listening to the AlohaAlova radio show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KCN in Irvine. So what do you think? I need you to call, text, or message me, 714-660-3723. Or, if you want, you can call me here at the radio station, 949 KUCI. I'm sorry, 949 UCI KUCI, 949-824-5824. Now, you heard, okay? So with that being said, you listen to the second half with Shensia, Dolly, Stanley Inao featuring DeVito with Caramel, Sting featuring Shaggy and Morgan Heritage with 44876, Stefflon Don with Senseless, Taurus Riley featuring Conscience, Simple Blessings, Mr. P, Cool It Down, Q Soul with Loves Me, and lastly you heard was Malik Berry, Now Let Go. Now let me tell you something before I forget. You can follow KUCI on Twitter at KUCI FM, on Instagram at KUCI FM, on Facebook at facebook.com/KUCI889. Now, in some events and in certain situations, just like what we're having right now, we actually have a live guest on the radio show. You can follow the AlohaAlova radio show by going to facebook.com/Aloha ALOHA Alova ALOVA, and what will happen is that on a random time, I mean not random time because it's Thursdays 8 to 10. Any given moment, what will happen is that I'll just pop up, go live, and just interact with the community. And maybe 5 to 10 minutes when the second hour starts, we're gonna go ahead and convert this second half more to a Q&A on how the origins of UCI with the new song Church College Ministry happened. Okay, so kick back and relax, y'all. You're now listening to the AlohaAlova radio show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KUCI in Irvine. Aloha, Alova. All right, man. I'm sorry. I'm loving the conversation.
Sure.
You ready to go? You ready to go live on radio?
Let's do it.
That's right, man. All right, so, dude, I just like to say thank you.
Yeah,
You
man.
know, I'm very blessed and honored. I know this is it took a while. Obviously with the pandemic, it took a while. So I'm just very blessed and honored for you to give me this opportunity. I've been saving it for a moment like this to where I didn't want to pressure you. Obviously,
Yeah.
we're both family men. We're
Yeah.
fathers, but yet at the same time, I didn't want to kind of just bug you and bug you and
Yeah,
bug you,
no.
like So
I appreciate the ask, dude. I'm so grateful to be here, dude.
that's right. That's
Yeah.
right, man. So let me go ahead and it's what we call it here, like public service PSA commercials.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, let me go ahead and get queued up, and then we'll take it from there.
Got it.
All right, thank you. You want to just say hi to the camera or anything? Or, there you go.
What's up, guys?
That's right. That's right.
It's pretty cool in here, man.
Yeah, man. Let me see. Oh man, thank you, man. You know, I've been waiting for this time, man.
Thank you, dude.
All right. Check something.
Do I have time to grab water real quick?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Mm-hmm. Let me say a quick intro. All right.
Right.
Wait, this is mic 2. Okay. And then Aloha, Alova. You're now listening to the AlohaAlova Radio Show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KCI in Irvine. Happy Aloha Alova pre-Friday, y'all. That's what I'm talking about. The Friday or the weekend starts once the show starts, y'all. Alright? Well, anyways, special shout out to those that are actually listening on the road, in their car, on the dial, 88.9 FM, KCI in Irvine, or via the TuneIn app by going to www.kci.org. What will happen is it'll make you download the TuneIn app to where you can listen to KCI 24/7, 365 all the time, y'all. But right now you're listening to the AlohaAlova Radio Show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KCI in Irvine. Before I start, I'd just like to say I'm very blessed to be here. 5 years. Happy 5th year anniversary, summertime for me. I appreciate KUCI's involvement within the community. Special shout out to my manager. Make sure you listen to his show. I'm also promoting the Hall of Fame show on Sundays from, I believe, 2 to 4, but I think I hear it sometimes from 3 to 5. I don't know. But either way, make sure you listen to the show. That way I can get plus and thumbs ups via emails, alright? But with that being said, you're now listening to the AlohaAlova Radio Show, brought to you by your boy DJ Mac on 88.9 FM, KUCI in Irvine. In about around 10 minutes, we're going to have a Q&A discussion, y'all, with my guest today, Pastor Abe Park. Alright, alright.
Thanks.
Alright, let me just coordinate. Alright. How's the mic for you? Everything good?
It's good.
Alright. Alright. Hold on, let me see. We're gonna make this unique a little bit.
Okay.
Check. Brother Abe, are you able to do a microphone check?
Check 1 2 3. Check 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. How's that? Is that good?
I think so. You know,
Alright.
we're just trying to make sure that the meters are up to the 0 parse. So let's
Okay.
see what we can do.
Okay.
Do
Testing.
do a test again.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
All right,
Testing.
all right.
1, 2, 3.
There we go. There we go. All right. So, uh, first off, for those that are actually listening in their car, on the road, on the dial, 88.9 FM, KUCI in Irvine, I appreciate you listening because I do have a guest that's very important to the station. The reason why is because the origins of the group, or what I like to say, the origins of our church actually started off a ring road, and I like to introduce live and in direct, full effect. We got Pastor Abe. How you doing, sir?
Good, man. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me. What's
Uh,
up? What's up?
That's right. Ring road coming full circle. That's KCI, right? Are you able? Okay, so let me get straight to the point. I've been with New Song for roughly around 13 years, and there was a point in my life where I felt lost, I felt broken, I had no guidance, and I was led to many different directions. But once I stepped in the door of a New Song, I felt at home, especially when it's called the home of the Misfits. And through the years, well, what's very, very interesting, that what I heard of on how the origins of New Song Church started at UCI. I want to give a special shout out to Pastor Dave Gibbons, for all the guidance that he's done for me and my family for all these years. Are you able to talk about the origins of New Song?
Yeah. I think New Song started in an apartment not too far from here. But even before that started, Dave's family moved from the East Coast all the way here to California. He felt called here. He felt like there was an opportunity to start a church to serve young people. Part of the reason why they chose Irvine was it was so, UC Irvine is huge, a huge presence here. And as the story goes, he went on Ring Road praying for the city of Irvine, this campus, and all the students that were coming here from the country, but also globally. And yeah, many of its first members ended up being some college students that were looking for a community as well. And they were a big part of. I remember this one story. One of my friends, Brian, he was a little older than me, and he was a college student. And he got a phone call after visiting Irvine because he had written like in the communication card that he was new.
Oh, okay.
And he got a phone call thinking it was like the secretary or someone that's helping out, volunteer. But he said it was Dave. Dave was cold calling people who had said, "Hey, I'm interested in this and that," and he called him and said, "Hey, why don't you come out to our church? Let's go grab a cup of coffee." And it was really relational, and it started small, but it started with a lot of college students from UCI, and I'm grateful because a couple years later, I was a student here myself, and that's how I got connected. There was a college group that was huge that we were a big part of. It was called The Edge. It's no longer in existence, but for many years, we would do a lot of things on campus. We'll help other freshmen move in. We served different things, part of the community. But we were always about, like, New Song was around 2,000 people at one point, and then we were about 10%. There was 200, 250 college students that would show up on Sunday morning, and we'd pick up the freshmen, grab them over from Teller. It's real close. So yeah, UCI played a big role in New Song's growth, and there's been a lot of history here.
And that's one thing that that I truly appreciate about New Song is the fact on how, like, through the struggle and strife, it has created the heart of what New Song is. It's the home of the Misfits. Through all pain and broken sorrows that I've been through, I feel at home, at all times, and that's one thing that I can never, like, going to church a Sunday is like going to a concert, because it's always, one thing about being at New Song is that every Sunday is different. I'm not gonna lie. I'm born again Christian, but however, with my Philippine descent, I was traditional Catholic. So I was so used to the from 11 to 5. I was so used to the itinerary being born, but one thing that amazed me on how there's really no set schedule when it comes to there's no set schedule when it comes to a new song, and that's the beauty of it, because it's like every minute's a surprise. So what that means is that we always have to stay focused and stay attention, because you'll never know what comes at you, and I mean, are you able to share, okay, can you share like moments of how new songs like beginnings has created a foundation of today's Sunday service? know?
Yeah. I think New Song started because of Dave's kind of the family of origin, or the origin story, if you will, for Dave, our pastor, is he went through a lot of trauma when he was young. His dad had an affair when he was young, and that caused a lot of pain. And his mom was lost and started, dipping into alcoholism, and that was a big, painful deal. And a couple years later, ironically, she was killed by a drunk driver. And out of that pain, I think Dave, whether he knew it or not, as he grew up and he became a pastor, he ended up building a church where people like someone like his mom, who's been through the worst thing of her life, who was a minority, a Korean woman growing up in Arizona in the late 70s. She didn't really have a lot of community, a lot of connection, but could someone like her find a place to heal, And I think part of the reason why New Song is kind of like that is there's this kind of like, in the church world, at least, about 20 years ago, the training that a lot of people have when they planted a church, there's like a lot of like cookie cutter stuff, if you will. A lot of like a one size fits all mentality.
Okay.
And,
I get it.
I think America is such a diverse country, right? And even as you shared, having a Filipino background and growing up Catholic, I had a lot of friends who were Filipinos and Catholic as well. When they came to New Song, one of the imageries that we use is of a water imagery. Like, they will come to service when we used to meet in Teller, in the warehouse, or now at 1010 in Santa Ana, but they would walk in and they would feel this like almost like refreshing kind of moment, right? Whether it be in the worship or whatever it may be during the sermon. Maybe they grew up kind of strict or a certain kind of, like you said, a little boring, right? But they would sit and then they would experience a freshness, like almost like a shower or a waterfall, or different like water imageries are always used for a lot of my Catholic friends when they come to New Song. And I think that's really interesting. There's something about water that's flowing, water that's like, we love Bruce Lee at New Song. We think not only he's a martial artist, but he's a philosopher. And he talks about water.
Yeah, be like water.
Be like water. It can be anything, right? And I think there's something about that flexibility, because, even as a parent, right, you have to be flexible, right? You have to know how to serve your kids. You got to know what is stable for them, but at the same time, you have to flex to the different things that they're going through and their growing pains, right? And I think part of love is customized. It's not a one-size-fits-all Hallmark card. I think love is adapting to the situation.
Exactly.
Love is constant, but at the same time, I feel like love is customized. And so I think that's what you're experiencing. You're experiencing a lot of customization that happens in the moment for different people. It's not a one-size-fits-all. I feel like even this, we could have had a script and we can just read off of it, and that could be good in some ways because we're prepared and certain things. But I really believe that it's like kind of like going on a date, right? There's an awkward moment, right? And the awkward moment sucks. Socially, it's like, oh, it's like death. But I think in an awkward moment, you have a choice. You can be like, you can do another script if you want and pretend, or you can be truly yourself, right? There's an opportunity for you to be yourself, and whether that person likes it or not, it becomes a friend or not, it's up to them. But I think whenever we interact, what's an authentic interaction? You should know what's going to happen next to a certain degree.
And that's what I like about New Song. It's full of surprises, and when I was lost, I didn't have nowhere to go. What made me take that chance is the surprise itself. And just like how you're talking about water feeling refreshed, my first moment, I already felt I guess I don't want to say rebaptized, but it goes back to the refreshness of happiness. Because obviously with the Philippine way, it was traditional, customary. It really didn't matter, because when you went home, you were so used to it. I guess that was part of family values.
Mm.
But then, when you're lost and you don't have family values there, you had to find your own values within yourself. And
Mm.
by taking that sacrifice to New Song was the best blessing I've ever received.
Mm.
You know?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was 17 years old in high school, I got my heart broken by a girl that asked me out on a dance. I thought she was cute. Didn't really work out. And, as a 17-year-old, you feel like your world's falling apart, right? I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
coming
yeah.
home, high school drama, and it was really embarrassing, but I walked home pretty emotionally compromised, and my parents were both home that night. I walked in, I was so embarrassed, I just started falling to the ground crying, right? And I remember crying, and I remember seeing their feet next to me because I looked down, their feet were there, and totally anticipating my dad saying something cliche, trying to encourage me by saying like, "Oh, there's, plenty of fish in the ocean," or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
cliche.
yeah, yeah,
And I
yeah.
was like almost like tensing up to hear whatever he was gonna say, pat me on the back, but they didn't say nothing. And I was like, "What's going on?" So I looked up, and both of them were crying.
Oh,
Both of
wow.
them were crying with me, and I'm so grateful to this day that they were so present with me in my 17-year-old heartbrokenness. Because they could have said something cliche or say, "Hey, don't worry about it, son," whatever, but they were so present with me, and I think that's something that I felt like caused me to be continually build that trust with them. Because if they say something like that, I don't know if I would trust them again with a real raw emotion, right? And I think whether it be parenting or whatever, it was such an unexpected moment, and not that every moment needs to be unexpected, but I didn't expect that kind of kindness and love from my parents at that moment, and it was something that I needed, right? And when you're going through a tough time, right? I mean, there are people that might even quote a scripture, well intentioned, but it could be a little bit uh, flat, because
Yeah.
it's not a real interaction. It could be more of a, I'm uncomfortable right now, so I'm going to say something to diffuse it. But there's a real opportunity to be present with someone, right? To be with them. And I think that's such an important part of what it means to be human, right? I think about Jesus, and when Lazarus was in the tomb, his friend, the two sisters, Mary and Martha, were crying their eyes out, saying, "Jesus, why didn't you come earlier? Why are you so late?" And he goes to the tomb. It's a miraculous story. He tells them to roll away the stone. Lazarus come out. He comes out. It's a crazy story in the gospel. But what's crazy to me is it says one of the shortest verses in the Bible says Jesus wept. Right? Jesus wept, and he asked Lazarus to come out. And I'm like, if he's God, if he knew what was going to happen, why is he crying? And I feel like part of the tears, I wonder if it's humanity or divinity, but he was so present with the suffering of his loved ones. Right? There's something about a God that can cry with us that
Yeah,
blows my
yeah,
mind.
yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah. Wow. Oh. Are you, on that note, are you able to kind of reference any scripture relevant to the first circle of New Song with you know
Well, I think for me, with UCI being a big part of New Song's story, but also Orange County in general, or anywhere in the world actually. But I think when you're growing up, you are told, you know, quote unquote, from your family, from society, even from religion, what it means to be successful, what it means to mean something. I mean, even as a student at UCI, I struggled academically. I was on academic probation. I learned real quickly AP in college is not a good thing. And that's something I went through personally,
yeah,
but
yeah,
that's a growing pain that I had to go through. But in the midst of all of my own struggles of being a student, not maybe getting the right enough grades, or even just struggling with your identity, I think one of the most crucial scripture for me in the last few years is simply Matthew 3:17. This is a story when Jesus gets baptized, and he's baptized by John the Baptist, and he goes into the water, he's baptized, and it says the heaven splits open, the voice of God booms out loud for everyone to hear, and God is speaking and says, "This is my son," to Jesus, "This is my son, my beloved, I'm well pleased with him." And it's a very powerful moment. And I don't have any. I've never been to a bar mitzvah, but I've seen them in movies where they put him in a chair and there's a lot of celebrating a boy becoming a man moment, like a 13-year-old
oh
kid. They
wow,
read their scripture and they put him on the thing. It's a big deal. But part of that tradition is to uncle or grandpa or father figure will grab the mic and say something in Yiddish or in English to say this is something similar. This is my son. I'm so proud of him. He's the apple of my eye. All right, very similar to Matthew 17. This is my son, my beloved. I'm well pleased with him. And as simple as that verse is, I feel like there's such power in identity. And identity, the world tells us our identity is defined by our GPA. Our identity is defined by our bank accounts. Our identity is based on what internship we have after we graduate college or whatever. But honestly, our identity, at least that I understand in the scripture, is what the Father, God the Father, says about us. He tells us who we are. You're my son. You're my daughter. You're my beloved. I'm well pleased with you. And the crucial part of this story is Jesus hadn't done any miracles at this point, really. He hadn't raised the dead. He hadn't fed the 5,000. This is very early in his, he hadn't done anything yet. And so I think that means so much to me, to know that you and I, we're beloved by God, not because of what we can produce or what we can like conjure or produce. We are simply his child. And he loves us. And he's already well pleased with us before we do anything. And I feel like that is the reason why it's the gospel. It's not what we can produce, because the world tells us that. The world tells us, oh, you gotta hit home runs. You gotta do slam dunks. You gotta do the most amazing things. Then you're part of this inner circle. Then you're part of the elite. But God is saying no.
It's the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And wow. Prior to us on the radio, you were advising on the podcast about the expansion of Christianity, or in this case Newsom Bangkok. Are you able to elaborate any situations to where, obviously when you go to any Asian country, there was a lot of obviously there's Buddhism.
Mm-hmm.
You as a first time, I mean, you were there to witness. Are you able to elaborate on any stories on how spiritual conflict, was there any kind of any mental battles that
Sure.
you had to go through?
I had a hard time sleeping when I was in Thailand. The first few months, I had to listen to a lot of Christian worship songs on my iPod. But more than anything, Thailand is a spiritual place for sure. A lot of dreams, a lot of different experiences that you may experience. I think good and bad, to be honest. Actually, I didn't share this earlier, but some of the kind of like conflict that we got, or pushback, was not actually from Buddhists or Muslims.
Oh wow!
It was actually from other Christians.
Oh wow!
We were canvassing this big mall in Thailand, just trying to serve Thais or expats or different part of the community. We were new. We were just canvassing, surveying. We were giving out flyers. I still remember giving it out to someone, and he looks at it, and he realized who we were. We were a church, and he gives it back to us. He goes, "I'm one of your competitors," and he walks away.
Oh, ouch!
And I was like, "Oh, like that's." I mean, we weren't hurt or anything, but it was like really confusing. But if there was any pushback, it was pushback from other Christians.
Oh wow!
Feeling that maybe we were doing the wrong things, or we're not good enough, or and maybe there was some fear, maybe there's unknownness, But I think that was reality, and I think that's reality here in America as well. Sometimes, I always hear, the reason why people don't follow Jesus is not because of Jesus, it's because of other Christians. Other Christians that make it difficult, and other Christians that may be hypocritical. And I think that's a challenge for any human beings, to meet people who are not necessarily being Christ-like.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like what they say in the music, like haters are gonna hate.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes the haters they come in all many shapes, sizes, and forms, and it's very I've never ran into that situation before, so I really can't speak on that behalf, but wow,
Yeah.
that must be some, I don't know how, I mean, like, I wouldn't know how I would felt, because like the only thing that I remember where I kind of felt a conflict occurring, was maybe around 15 years, a while back, a long time ago, when someone of one faith, and because we're on the radio, I'm not gonna mention that faith, called my faith a cult.
Mm.
And I took that in offense, but obviously, in my corporate profession, I was already trained to handle that with a smile. But as years go by, it still makes me think is that why does one group have to be called a derogatory name when why can't we just all get along? And it kind of goes back to stereotypical of, like, in this case, University of something immigrants, on how why is there so much prejudice spiritually and physically, to where, like, how come there's ignorance is all ignorance comes in many shapes and sizes of form, but the essence of what brings me to New Song is the acceptance of learning differences within culture. And one thing about KUCI especially is that obviously I play international reggae, but we have our rock, we have our orchestra, we have our even video games. Special shout out to Chris Torrey, Life's a Game Show. Make sure you listen to him from 6 to 8. Anyways, what I'm trying to say is that every DJ, I mean, like, I'm not trying to make KUCI like a music church, but if we would bring that principles of philosophy, in terms of music differences to a radio station, to where we're supposed to accept one's differences, I wonder why just in life in general, on how can we just all of different spiritual and faiths just hang out one day, and are you able, I mean, do you know of any place within UCI where that there's something like a universal faith?
Yeah.
Can you explain that for me?
Yeah, UCI has an interfaith that's been here for a long time, and it's a space where people of different faiths can come together and have meetings, or different faiths can have different prayer meetings, but it's an opportunity to learn from one another as well. And so I was always grateful for that. As someone that I grew up in Singapore, a multicultural, multi-religious city nation, it was always cool to have different faiths represented, and I'm grateful for that exposure because it was very normal to me. So when I came to UCI and I saw that they had something like that, a space for different faiths to come together, I respected that, and it felt normal to me. But I realized, to your point, yeah, there's a lot of hate and there's a lot of discrimination and separation that can happen. And I feel like, if people are truly lovers of God, are they gentle? Are they kind? Are they willing to be patient and listen first before speaking? I think that's a very important marker of if someone is someone who actually follows after the principles of love.
Yeah, and that's one thing too that I don't want to I don't want to get too legal here, but I guess there's too much. I mean, like, radicalism. I don't know if that's the right term to say, but sometimes, like, when I guess you have your patriot religion people, I guess we'll say it that way. When they go too hardcore, I mean, like, with New Song, one thing I truly appreciate is the cultural diversity, especially now that we're in Santa Ana, on how, like, we're only reaching our arms out to the Hispanic community. It's a place of, like I said before, it's a place full of surprises. There's no time schedule I need to memorize. I go there hoping to learn something new every minute, and it's one pastor one week, a different pastor another week, and that's the beauty of New Song, and that's why I continue to go there. Are you able to elaborate? I mean, like, are you able to mention any programs within New Song that you're a part of?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm really proud of is during the pandemic, especially, our local global team, which have been doing some pretty crazy stuff like King's Table. King's Table, it started out, the genesis was serving the homeless in Santa Ana, and almost like inviting a few homeless who are part of different shelters to come to New Song. They would bus them over, and some of them work for their chefs for 5-star restaurants. They would cook an extravagant meal with place settings, and we'll have different people eat and share their stories, some of our homeless brothers and sisters would play the piano. Some of them are super gifted and just share their story. And then we had students from OSHA. Some of them do go to church, some of them don't, but they're musically talented, and their teacher would bring them over to sing a song to kind of lift the spirit. And he said that some of these students sang their hearts out because they really wanted to serve this homeless community, and they sing at malls, sing at concert halls, but they didn't have that kind of enthusiasm. They were so excited. He was blown away, but it was truly an opportunity for them to give back to the community. And so it's not just New Song is giving out. It's an opportunity to serve with other organizations. They're not religious, but they really want to give back. They really want to serve. I've heard the stories of a CEO of a company bringing their crew to help serve the food. They pitched in for the food and then they served the homeless community.
Oh, wow.
And then at the end, they asked the CEO to give a speech, and he wasn't going to do it, but he finally went up and he shared his story and how not too long ago in the past, he was living in a car with his mom. He was homeless when he was growing up. And his employees were like, "What? We didn't know that." And it was such a personal thing for the CEO to bring his a team to come and serve the community. It was an opportunity for him to give back. And I think that story of him being homeless at one time was an encouragement for those that were eating a meal there as well. So King's Table is something that we do once a month. It's a beautiful thing. But that same team also do Food Love Fridays every other Friday since the pandemic. We thought the pandemic was going to be, 3 months? We were wrong. But it's been going on, and still people have food insecurities, and we've been working with Second Harvest, which is a food bank. They deliver the food, and we give it out on Friday afternoons at 1010 in Santa Ana. And families come, no contact. We put it in their trunk, and someone will walk up. We give it to them in bags, and it's a wonderful way to give them fresh groceries and frozen foods that can serve them during the week. So that's something we get to do as a church, serving community.
That's right, y'all. If you're just now listening to us, I have my good friend, my good brother, and a pastor of the church and how it's relevant to the beginnings of UCI. Before we go, let me go ahead and first of all, let me let you know that my playlist for today's show will be on the my Facebook Live newsfeed. Okay, so what will happen is that after we're done with the show, if there's any questions with reference to any songs or anything, make sure you go to facebook.com/aloha ALOHA Alova ALOVA, and what will happen is that the songs that were played, hour number 1, the first half and second half, and even the second half of hour number 2, which is actually like right now, will be played. Okay, so let me go ahead and tell you it. It's gonna be Special Blend with Sunday, Slightly Stupid featuring Angela Hunt with One Bright Day, Kimmy Minor, Proud as the Sun, Skip Marley with Cry to Me, Lion Fire featuring J-Bug with Love Love, Kwame Eugene with Angela, Eli Mack with Young Girl, and lastly you heard was Kaipo Kapua. Now if you wanted to know what's going on right now, and if you wanted to, for all my listeners that are actually listening on the road, in the car, on the dial at 88.9 FM KUCI in Irvine, if you wanted to call us, we're live and full direct. You can go ahead and call us at 949-824-5824. Once again, 949 UCI KUCI. With that being said, I have a good friend, good brother, and a brother of spirit, a brother of Christ. I have Pastor Abe. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to be here.
All right, and that's what I'm talking about. So going back to like a New Song, I guess New Song Church. I would actually hear stories. Like the beginning started off in a bar too. Do you know about that?
Yeah.
Bars and houses before it got established off of Teller's where I went. Teller. I mean, okay, I know I'm jumping subjects, but Teller. I mean, I don't look at the Teller church as a warehouse. It was a big place, and that's how I felt it. It felt so big, I fit right in. You know what I mean? And that's one thing. But did you ever go to any of the? I guess when New Song was small. I mean, not small, but more of like classroom quantity. Did you ever? Were you part of that original group or
No.
founding group?
No, I wasn't part of that founding group. I got to help be part of Newong Bangkok in the early days. But when we was in Santa Ana, different Elks Lodge, they moved around different
Oh,
places. They even
wow.
borrowed other churches just because like they were small enough at the time. But as it got bigger and bigger, I think I probably showed up when Newong was probably around 500 people. So it wasn't small anymore. It was pretty
It was
big.
pretty, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
it was
pretty
pretty
big.
big. And so as a college student, I was moved by the excellence of the musicians. I was moved by how powerful and raw the stories were. Not only Dave Gibbons, but different people would share stories of recovery and healing. That blew my mind, honestly, as an 18-year-old kid, realizing, man, we can talk about this kind of stuff in church. So I was grateful for those kinds of experiences. But yeah, I wasn't part of that early days. I mean, I showed up maybe 5 years into it, but I still meet people that were there in the beginning times. I still meet sometimes people who are visiting that I later realized they were part of that original crew, but they moved on, but they're still visiting from time to time because they have friends there. So it's pretty cool, the kind of long history, like 28-year history that it's been around.
And that's one thing that I truly appreciate too is that never. I mean, I do believe in where I do believe in one of those slogans: "Never forget where you came from." And I mean, I live in Irvine, so I never left. So, but obviously, with situations in life that occur, obviously people are gonna move, and but to come back to where how you've seen it grow from a small seed to now it's blossoming into its own tree. I'm pretty sure like people that moved, or whether it's LA to the Bay to Thailand, or even to New York, or just everywhere outside to come back to its original roots, they must feel very proud to how they were part of the young group that was part of like like a small quantity of a classroom.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, like they're now they have their own church. They must be feel really proud.
Yeah, I think that has been a crazy journey because I remember there was one Sunday when we used to meet in Tustin. They had to blast it on the internet, on the website back then. There was no social media, but their website to say that the roof was on fire,
Oh,
literally on fire. The night before, I think lightning hit or something. There was fire, so it was not safe to go in. So they decided to meet in a park. But I just thought it was so funny that the kind of the constant moving from place to place, looking for different places, as difficult as that was, I'm sure for people to fold chairs, put stuff away, in a weird way, for many, it was like a bonding experience.
yeah.
Doing it together, putting things away, cleaning it up, serving the kids together. I think that's part of what it means to be part of the community. Not just busy work, but actual things that had to be done. And I think now that we have our own building, it's not necessarily massively huge, but we're such a I would say strategic place, right? We're in part of Santa Ana where we serve so many different kinds of families, right? Because right north of us, Floral Park in Santa Ana, it's actually a really nice neighborhood. Homes that I can't even afford. It's really nice up there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then right below that, there's Washington Square, and there's another community to the left of it where there's a lot of a very transient family. And I learned from one of the principals from across the school in Willard that said that part of the reason why some families always move around is there's a Santa Ana jail not too far away.
Yeah, that's up a flower. Yeah, yeah.
And then they have a family member that is currently incarcerated, and so they want to be close by so they can go visit them, right? And so once they get out, they move away, and so we get to serve a community that's in flux, and that's a very unique thing that we get to be. I mean, I'm glad that we were in Irvine a couple years ago where I was a student and got to get connected to this community. But I'm also really grateful that we get to be in Santa Ana to serve a whole other community in a different way.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I appreciate is the continuous learning. Not like you mentioned how like there'll be situations in Tustin, and now I mean in situations off a teller in Irvine. You know, obviously the Bible's a book, but sometimes it can be read and interpreted many different ways.
Sure.
And just like how we experience situations in life, I guess what makes us bond, bond as a one family is being there for each other at that time and at that moment to adapt to the circumstance.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to UCI just because it was such a formative time in my life, a young age, learning. School is one thing, but making some lifelong friends here, and
That's right.
Newsong played a big part, but UCI played a big part as well. I mean, some of my close, I got so lucky. Like some of my roommates I got to live with, I'm still good friends with them now.
There you go.
And all of us got married, and our wives just happen to be good friends too, and our kids get along really well.
There you go.
I'm super grateful for that. I didn't plan for that, obviously, but
It's in God's gift.
yeah, it is. It is.
That's
I think
right.
I moved around so much when I was young. I really didn't feel like I belonged, and I think Newsong was one of the first places I felt like I could be myself. But I think finding this community through UCI was a huge gift to me. Because finding friends, finding community, it's so helpful. No matter how smart you are, no matter how much money you have, if you don't have
And
that kind of
especially, yeah,
connection.
and especially in the university level.
Oh yeah.
One thing obviously, like I mentioned before, is the discipline. Coming here, number one, isn't cheap, but then we're also not wasting time. I mean, the students here are not wasting time because obviously to become a doctor we had to study.
Sure.
But what I'm trying to say is that you bring up the perfect example on how things outside the normal are full of surprises to where the lifelong friends continue. I mean, these are the kind of relationships, spiritual relationships that you want to hold on to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, man. Can't do it alone. You need a community.
I wanted to talk too, obviously, we were talking about the college ministry. How does the future of New Song look right now? Do you have? You as a pastor with New Song, were there any discussions to kind of go full circle back to the roots of Ring Road, or? I do hear from other pastors of a spreading of another university. I mean, are you able to provide some feedback on that?
Sure, yeah. I think basically where our building is, our church building is in Santa Ana, and we're right next to Santa Ana College, really close to Chapman University as well. But our heart is still very tethered to UCI. I just had a coffee with a young leader from InterVarsity, one of the campus ministries here. They do something with a few other campus ministries every year called Interfellowship Praise Night. And I think that's on the Wednesday before school starts, September 21st. They invited me to come and speak. And I said, I've done this before and I love it, but I want to get Jimmy Bay, our youth pastor who also works with college students, to kind of have a young voice and speak to the students. So I'm really excited for Jimmy Bay, one of our New Song pastors, to be here on campus on September 21st, 7 o'clock. I think the room is still TBA, but an opportunity to serve the incoming freshmen and transfer students who are looking for community, who are looking for connections. So that's one really tangible way for us to stay connected to UCI. And so, yeah, I'm excited for that. See how some relationships will grow out of that, and young people coming from Northern California, other places, looking for a community, looking for a church.
Wow. Yeah, that's one thing about UCI in general is that obviously as a community member, it's just a little. I mean, the first time I touched the computer was at UCI. It's the UCI computer laboratories, because at that time, I didn't have money to buy one, so I would kind of just hang out the computer library and just use it that way. But it's the the spiritual connection of UCI and how we all connect together. There was a mention of another college, Chapman University. Are you able to elaborate? Has there been I don't want to say followers, but how's the church involvement with New Song and Chapman? Do any of New Song pastors go to Chapman at the moment?
Yeah, Chapman's about to start up real soon because their semester program. And we have students coming back. We met some wonderful freshmen that came to our community last year looking for an opportunity to connect, and I think there's some of them that will be even serving with Jimmy Bay in our youth ministry. But in terms of our presence, we also partner with InterVarsity, which is one of our partners in New Song, and they do incredible work in serving the campus. I mean, they have a better sense than us because they've been doing it for so long. But we try to partner up with them and serve alongside them. And actually, UCI is really unique because it has so many amazing campus ministries. You know,
That's
crew,
right.
navigators. I mean, they're all AACF. I mean, there's so many different. I mean, there's so many, like almost 50 from my understanding.
Yeah, speaking about that, I don't know, I don't think it's on Ring Road, but every time I cross that bridge, under the bridge, there's a Buddhist, there's a cross.
Mm.
I don't know what that area is called, but
Mm.
for some reason I like looking at it because it's like, I guess I like to call it the Garden of Peace.
Mm.
And it's just kind of like, it's just kind of a quick reminder of how many many people of many different cultures can kind of come to a college of a universal college to all share one thing, which is besides school knowledge, is also share the same peace.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, stress is not the only thing, but like I said, in this world that we live in, there's so much stress, there's so much anxiety, there's so much depression, there's so much pressure that I think the peace that honestly, I mean, UCI is famous for their dance crews. It's famous for so many different kinds of things that they do. I think to find a community where you can belong, to find a place where you're seen, to find a place where you can be yourself, to find a place where people care for you and love you, I think that's a huge step towards mental health as well. And just having a sense that people know your name, they care about you, they love you. I think that's a really important journey for a young 18, 19, 20-year-old.
Yeah, and and especially with what we're experiencing right now with I guess a new normal. Obviously, that new normal happened ever since the mask mandate was turned off during spring. But obviously, mental health plays a big role in our lives as we speak.
Yeah.
Because even like I guess with me, one thing I realized when the pandemic was at its prime, the depression is very contagious, and it's not just besides hearing it, it's the sense of depression, it's hearing it, smelling it, feeling it. I mean, all the above, and that's why, like what you said about mental health, I kind of felt that going to Newsong was my was the therapy. Sometimes, like, I needed to go there to feel refreshed.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I needed. There would be days where I wish. Well, I mean, I know there's times. I mean, maybe like a couple of years ago, I would actually go to the 9 o'clock service and 11 o'clock just to remind myself, because it made it so much of an impact in my life. And I know for a fact that with mental health, but besides sports, mental health is very important. And I know that Newong Church, Newong Ten Santa Ana, Newong, I believe Mexico, right? Newong Thailand. Love is a therapy. Love is the cure, and love is Jesus. And what we all share together in life. Not just at the radio show. I mean, I love all my radio DJs. It's one thing I try my best to work on a day-to-day basis is to minimize ignorance in all ways. And obviously, if you see it, that's the easier way. But sometimes what you don't see is the hardest way. So to kind of eliminate the spiritual ignorance is the cure of love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know that Newong, going to Newong Church helps me to be at peace. Be at peace.
That's
you know
awesome,
what I mean?
man. I started going to therapists actually.
Oh wow!
In the last year, I just started, and I'm glad Newong, as a community, has been in therapy for you. It is also for me, but I think I also needed actual help from a counselor, and it's been really helpful for me. I think sometimes in certain communities there's stigmas on seeing therapists or stuff like that. I'm actually really grateful that I'm learning that from my therapist friends that a lot of their clients are younger and younger, and
Oh,
I
wow.
think that's a good sign that it's more acceptable. People are willing to invest into their mental health, finding help. Obviously, even finding a good therapist can be challenging at times, but I think that's a big step towards, hey, how can I invest in myself? How can I make sure that I'm doing okay? Because as a dad, if I'm kind of out of sync or out of whack, my ability to be there for my wife or my kids is compromised, you know? And so part of loving myself is a very important part, like, the cheese thing, right? You're on a plane, the stewardess says when the oxygen mask falls, you're not supposed to put it on the kid first. You're supposed to put it on yourself, right? And I thought, oh, that's being super selfish. No, but it's like, no. What if you pass out? Because of the pressure change. You got to make sure that you have it, that you're taken care of, so you can help other people, right? I think part of getting therapy or getting help is you're getting the oxygen mask.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
getting some
exactly.
help, so that you can be of assistance to to the other DJs or to your family or to other students because um, we all go through tough times, tough seasons, and we're humans. It's not if life gets hard, it's when life gets hard, right?
Yeah.
And making sure that we have a community there for us is a very important part of not just survival but growth.
Yeah, wow, that's right. That's right.
Man.
That's right. Whew. This is real talk for real. Aloha Thursday. Yeah. For those that are listening right now on the air, on the road, and on the dial, if you want, you're free to call if you have any questions. 949 UCI KUCI. Once again, 949-824-5824. Um, I have a good friend, a good brother, brotherly Christian brother. All the above, obviously, without him, there wouldn't be no me. For the last 2 hours, we've been basically talking about the origins of New Song to UCI, and that's what brings him here. Before we go, are there any shout outs you want to give?
Well, I gotta give a shout out to uh, my dorm that used to live here at Woodhall in Middle Earth.
Okay.
I want to actually give a shout out to my RA. Her name is Marsha. Her birthday was yesterday. The only reason I know that is because my brother's birthday is same as hers. So it was Marsha's birthday yesterday. So happy birthday, Marsha! Thanks for being the most amazing RA and changing all of our freshmen lives. So
Special shout out to that. And a special shout out to your brother too. Happy
Yeah,
birthday.
yeah. Happy birthday, John.
Um, what does the future hold? For New Song. I mean, are you able to kind of give a little sneak peek or a quick detail? Is there going to be any kind of like leadership counseling over here at UCI again with any representatives or anything like that?
We have some students that grew up at New Song that are currently they just finished their freshman year and they're going to sophomore year. So I've been able to visit a campus to just love on them, drop off some Chick-fil-A, just check in on them, boba, that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're always kind of tethered to the campus through individual relationships. But in terms of the future, I think UCI. I mean, honestly, UCI is an amazing school that keeps getting better and better and better. Like, I don't know if I could get in UCI now, just because I got in a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Like getting
yeah.
in low and then now it's high. And so I'm grateful for the influence that UCI as an academic institution has. I think the future of New Song is we believe that church is not just church, but it's also an academy, right? It's an opportunity to teach and have an impact in educating people. Now, I think one of the things that we're doing already, not just the future, but already, is something called a mix. Every Wednesday night at 10:10, there are a community of people that gather from. They walk over, and some moms take, they take Zumba classes. Some kids
Oh
take
wow.
homework classes. Some of them are taking martial arts, and it's free or low cost, and there's an option to serve the community. And it's been happening for I think our eighth year is going to start in September on a Wednesday night. People are going to come back to the community again. And it was a really big deal. During the pandemic, a lot of it was on Zoom, but people are coming and meeting safely again. And The reason why I bring that up is because we have students from UCI, we have students from Beckman High School, we have students from all over that come and volunteer their time. Some of them just for volunteer hours, but some of them really believing in serving and educating people. We have people that teach American Sign Language to kids.
Oh,
we
wow.
we have a lot of cooking classes. You're trying to teach them to cook healthy, bake different things. So I love the fact that what it means to be the academy, and we're not a university, but the academy is to serve the community. Yes, spiritual studies do happen, Bible studies do happen, but I think there's a holistic approach in the way that we're trying to serve the community. Physical health, right? Mental health. We have a lot of therapists at our church as well that are trying to provide services. We're trying to serve the foster families. There's a lot of different things that we're trying to do together with the community. Part of that is to be like an academy. It's already happening on Wednesday nights. We have a lot of online classes as well. So I don't know. The future, I think UCI would play a big role in that. There's professors here. There's educated students here that can be part of equipping so many students for the future as well. So yeah.
Wow. 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 It's just a blessing to have you on the show today. And there's countless. I'm still speechless, even though we can keep we can keep talking and talking on and on and on. How I mean, for those that are listening on the road or on the road in the car on the dial or via the TuneIn app, are you able to provide the address?
Sure. Yeah. We're on 1010 17 West Street. We are in Santa Ana. And if you want any of that information, you can go to newsong.com. All our service times and our even old messages are on there. You can check us out. We met a lot of cool people coming, checking us out during the pandemic. There's some people that came to our church because when the George Floyd stuff was happening, they, in their whatever church they were going to, wanted to have a conversation about Black Lives Matter and different things that they felt passionate about. And I've heard some pretty crazy stories of certain pastors not even addressing it or turning away from them physically. And it's very unfortunate. These are things that matter to people. These are things that people have questions about their spiritual growth, what it means to love their neighbor. And if those things matter to you, yeah, I would love for anyone to come check us out. Newsong.com is where our contact info is at. All our socials are there as well. And so, yeah, and if you come, look for Abe. I would love to help you get connected.
Wow. Thank you very much. Once again, like I mentioned at the prior half of the hour, the playlist will be on the AlohaAlova newsfeed. I know today was a hybrid type of show. So with that being said, let me just go ahead and mention the songs. The second half, we start off with Mahi Oscar, Matis Yahoo featuring Common Kings with Broken Crowns. Then we had Kaimani Marley with Rule My Heart, Anuhea with I Won't Settle, Romaine Virgo with Soul Provider, Carly Buds with I Got You, Estelle featuring Tyrus Riley with Love Like Ours. Today's show is different because once in a while we'll always have our arms to the community, and what made today different is the fact on how the church I go to, Newong 1010, was actually just a group of friends at the Ring Road at UCI, and obviously we are the college radio station of UCI. So if there's any questions, what you want to go to is Newsong. Is it newsong.com?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, newsong.com, and get the info. If you have any questions, there's contact numbers over there listed, and we're here when we're here if anyone on the app, on the TuneIn app or on the road needs any advice or anything, besides a radio DJ, just as a friend, as a spiritual brother. Pastor Abe is here for you. DJ Mac is here for you. All right. So with that being said, kick back and relax to DJ Cat Cotter coming right up. So with that being said, I'd like to say thank you for tuning in to the show. Aloha, alova.
Awesome, man.
All right, hold on. Oh wow. Give me a quick minute. Sorry, brother. All right, brother Abe.
Yeah,
Thank
man.
you.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, that
Uh,
newsong.com is brand new. It used to be newsong.net for so many years, and then
Oh
recently
yeah.
it became newsong.com. So hopefully it's easier to remember.
Hold on. Are you able to wave to the crowd before
Sure.
we take our final picture?
Yeah, man. What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening. It's good to be here.
Well, without Pastor Abe, the show wouldn't have happened. I like to give a shout out to those that made a difference in my life. You know, Pastor Dave Gibbons. He, without him, I would probably still be misguided. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I'm very blessed to have him. I'm very blessed to have you. I'm very blessed to have Pastor Dave Gibbons. I want to give a special shout out to Pastor Emily.
Mm.
Congratulations on the baby, and hopefully you have a safe delivery.
Mm.
I want to give a special shout out to Charlene, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's the I guess second in charge of
Yeah, she backs up Emily.
Oh,
She
there
does
you
an
go. Yeah, I'd
amazing
like
job.
to give a special shout out to Pastor Charlene. Who's that singer? Janet?
Jana Alara.
Yeah, there you go. Special shout out to
Jana.
Jana Alira.
Mhm.
Maybe one day I hope to have you in the radio station to do a radio show. I mean, here's the stage, So, but I'd like to say thank you for everything, and yeah, anyone to give any shout outs or anything?
I gotta give a shout out to my brother, my baby brother, who has a baby of his own now. His name is John. Happy birthday, John. And one more shout out to my RA, Marcia, for making our freshman year unforgettable. So grateful to be here. Thank you, DJ Mac. Thanks
That's
for having
right.
me.
Thank you. All right, y'all take care. All right, let me go ahead and